you're pandering to women because you want to get their money.
I think that unfortunately the internet has a way of making the minority look like the majority.
Right.
So we see these negative comments by these men. The reason why some of them react that way is because they're hurt.
Yeah.
They're hurt. Some of them is because they're being exposed. I'm not here to fix your relationship. I'm here to get people in the right relationship. And that might include leaving you. So I'm just going to speak my truth. And what people want to do with that, that's totally up to them.
I feel like a lot of women are frustrated because we feel like we're going to the seminars, we're going to the events, we're reading the books, we're watching the YouTube videos, but ain't no one talking to these men out here.
You can be an amazing woman. He's just not the one for you. I know a lot of women don't like hearing this, but I have to say this. Another big thing that gets in a lot of women's way is how they physically present themselves. What women will say looks amazing doesn't always line up with what men think. If you're trying to attract men, get the opinion of men. What many men will sleep with does not equate to what many men will marry. So the issue really isn't submission. The issue is trusting men.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. So welcome back to episode 3 of our intimacy series, where we have some deep, transparent, real and open conversations. In today's video, I am speaking to the one and only Stephan Speaks, aka Stephan Labossiere. I am so excited to have this guest on my channel. I love him. I love his energy, I love his spirit, I love his passion, and I love his gift of communication. And we've been talking for some time via DMs, and I actually wanted him to come over to the UK to do a sit-down interview, but then lockdown hit. But super excited to have him on the Zoom. Listen, sit back and enjoy this conversation, get something to eat, because we touched on so many things in this video, and I know you guys will definitely be blessed and encouraged. So make sure you guys watch till the end and let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and my intimacy series. I have the wonderful Stephan Labossiere.
Yeah, pretty much. That's good.
I've watched so many interviews of his, and I've seen people try to butcher his name. So I actually got it right, thank God. So we are interviewing Stephan today, and I'm so excited to have him on the channel. He's someone that I definitely look up to, and someone that's been in the game for a hot minute. I actually classify you as the top or the biggest black, would you call yourself a life coach?
Relationship coach, life
relationship coach.
Yeah.
Yes, I consider you the biggest, and I guess the numbers don't lie. And we've been kind of talking back and forth in the DMs. I actually wanted to get him over to the UK, but lockdown hit. So it was like, okay, we'll do it on Zoom then. It's kind of second best, but I just want to have a conversation with you. So I definitely do anticipate you coming to the UK at one point. Absolutely. We'll do this massive event. And it will be awesome. But do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll get into it?
So I mean, quick introduction. My name Stephan Labossiere, also known as STEPHAN'S Speaks. I've been coaching for about, I think, like 12 years now. It's been so long. Time has flown. But author of 10 books, and I'm just all about helping people improve their life and their relationships and heal. That's a big thing for me.
I love that you prioritize the healing part of things, because I think that's the bedrock of relationships. And I truly believe that when two people come together, people don't have relationship problems, they have individual problems. And if you're not healed going into a relationship and you go into another one, you're only going to mess up the situation. So I love that you prioritize healing. And I kind of want to say right now that this isn't going to be a typical interview. I've watched so many of Stephan's interviews, and I now know not what not to ask, but what to ask. So we're going to be more like personal. I asked my followers to ask some questions, so we're going to read those off as well. But I just want to know a little bit more about you. Why did you choose this field? Like, did you kind of like fall into it? Is it a coincidence? Like, what made you get into this field as a guy?
It was God, and I really mean that. Like, I had no plans. I literally hated speaking in front of people when I was in high school and college. I literally hate writing. So in college, I failed high school. I graduated late because I didn't turn in papers. So the idea of writing books and speaking in front of audiences, that was far from anything I would have chosen on my own. And when I graduated, my degree was in IT, was management information systems. So I was used to computers, and before that it was accounting. So again, nothing like this, but through a series of events and me getting closer to God, it just led me to writing my first book. And I still, even when I wrote my first book, didn't know it would turn into this. I just knew that this is what God was telling me to do. Let me do it. Let me just keep asking, okay, what's the next step? And I just kept following the steps. And then here I am.
So what was your first book called?
How to Get a Woman to Have Sex with You If You're Her Husband.
Huh? What?
How to Get a Woman to Have Sex with You If You're Her Husband.
Wow. So I'm assuming it was a book on celibacy.
No. It was a book on helping married couples with their intimacy, because what happened was during that time, I had moved from Miami, Florida to Georgia. And when I moved, I was surrounded by married couples, and they were all coming to me for advice. And I was constantly hearing all these issues of this lack of communication and lack of intimacy and all these things. And that and contributing to God saying to me to do it was what led to me writing that book. Because I figured, okay, they're not hearing each other. There's a gap in communication. Let me fill this gap. And that's where the book comes from.
So may I ask, why were they coming to you?
So I don't really have a definitive answer except to say that all my life, people have opened up to me and I never knew why. I've had strangers meet me and tell me their life stories. I've heard about molestations and all kinds of crazy stuff from people I have no idea who they were. They just, for whatever reason, felt comfortable opening up to me. So I can only assume that that same trait is what contributed to these individuals coming to me, and me kind of being a fair, level-headed voice and things of that nature. And I think looking back, you know, what people would say about me is that I seem to have a gift on knowing how to communicate things in a way that you can understand it. So it's like, I'm not necessarily saying anything brand new. I just know how to say it in a way that connects to a lot of people. And I think that causes people to want to come back to me for more guidance.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree. I feel like you're very fair, and you kind of take the place of seeing both sides, which is, I guess, especially in this YouTube space and the way that the world is now with all of the podcasts and everything. I would definitely feel like you are a fair voice, and that's why women respect you. And I should hope that men respect you too, but we'll get into that a little bit later. At the time when you wrote your first book, you had married couples coming to you. Was you married at the time?
I was not.
Wow. And I definitely get you when you say that people are drawn to you for some reason. They start telling you their life story, because I feel like I have the same thing. People just tell me their business and I'm like, okay. So I definitely feel like it's a gift and it's a calling. I kind of want to start talking about your relationship status and past and present. Is it true in saying that you was once married?
Yes.
Okay, take us back there and what happened and what you learned from it and how you was able to move forward.
So this might sound crazy to some, but it really was like a blur, because it happened. There's a lot of factors surrounding it. All right. And it happened very young. It was only 2 years. And like I always tell people, that's not what taught me. I didn't learn from that experience. Okay. You know, the only thing, if I did learn something, it was to not allow outside influences, family, and things of that nature to push you into doing things. Other than that, we didn't have it's not like we had some kind of horrible breakup or whatever. We're cool, you know, and there's no issues there. So it really, for me, my learning came from getting closer to God. So there's not much I can say about that experience other than I was really young.
How old was you?
I think I even forget sometimes. I want to say 24.
Okay. And how old are you now?
43.
Wow. I thought he was in your 30s.
I know people never.
Like, don't crack. That's amazing. Okay, so 23, you got married. Did you know the person for a long time, or was it like a fast track? Why did you get married?
It was fast tracked. It was fast tracked. I mean, I you know, I always want to be very transparent, but there are some details I cannot, for specific reasons, reveal. All right, I'm not hiding nothing. It's just like, it's out of respect for this individual. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But yeah, it was pretty fast tracked, and yeah, again, it was just something that family was involved in. So yeah.
Okay, I won't dig too much into that, even though I want to. But okay, from 20, so you got divorced at 25?
Yeah, you could say that roughly.
And you're 43 now.
Yeah.
So from that point to this point, you haven't remarried.
No.
Why?
So I would argue, I mean, there's different phases, but what I can say looking back now is, and this is kind of what I tell the people who come to me for advice, is like, listen, everything's on God's timing. So, you know, when I think about it now, back then, and this is the first time I'm really thinking about this, back then, whether it comes to that relationship, and even, I was very successful when I was younger. I was in real estate investment. I had up to like 15 properties. I'm living it up, you know? And I always say, like, all of that existed back then was without God. It wasn't, I hadn't built a relationship with God. I didn't understand God on that level. You know, it was me doing things through my own understanding of logic of things. And it's almost like once all of that ended, because the market crashed over here in the States, so I lost all the properties, that relationship ended, everything. It's like a brand new chapter of life then began. And from that point, it was about trusting God's process. All right. And so in that, so it's not that I could not have gotten in new relationships, married, whatever, since then. But I learned, and you can say this is another thing that I learned, is that you got to talk to God. And I need God to confirm for me, this is who I'm supposed to be with. Because the stakes are a lot higher now. The path that I'm on, you know, there's so many angles to get into, but I feel the need to speak on this.
Yeah.
You know how biblically they talk about, you know, we don't basically war in the flesh, we war in the spirit. And I think people underestimate what's going on in the spirit. All right. And how easily you can align yourself or get caught up with someone who is spiritually completely out of whack. And they could be on the surface a wonderful person. It does not mean they're intentionally doing malicious things. It doesn't mean their resume won't look good. But what's going on spiritually that you cannot see is something that will derail you and destroy you if you allow yourself to get in too deep or get involved at all.
Yeah.
So for me, it becomes a matter of, yes, I can meet all these wonderful women, all these wonderful people, but that doesn't mean that's where God wants me to be. And where I can flourish as far as where I have to continue to go, because my purpose ain't done. There's more to come. And who can actually walk with me on that path? It's going to be very specific. It's not going to just be, oh, pick any random person and you're going to be okay. That's not how this works. At least for me, I know it's not how it's going to work.
Right.
So it's just a matter of being patient. But also, I will say, one of the things that I feel that I learned it in the last however many years is how men in general don't know how to love in their masculine. And that's how I label it, okay? I feel that a lot of men, when they fall for a woman, a lot of men are damaged. So when they fall for women, they don't even know how to handle their emotions, and they can create all kinds of trouble. Then also, even those who may not necessarily be damaged per se, they don't know how to maintain that masculine energy that woman is going to be more drawn to, and that's needed to balance the relationship. And I think that there was a level of growth that had to occur for me to learn how to balance that as well, so that the relationship can be successful. And the last thing I'm going to add is this, because here's the other thing. A lot of people swear they're ready. But if you're trying to get what God has for you and wanted to succeed on God's terms, then the requirements are a lot higher. And you aren't as ready as you may think you are. And it's because that God has to tie up some loose ends in your life before he can allow you to move forward with anybody. And sometimes that's us learning how to release old habits that we have and old perceptions and things of that nature. And I think that our perception of time makes us rush things. But God's timing is very different. And it's just a matter of putting my full trust in him and knowing that, you know, when the time comes, it's going to be something amazing.
So what would you say for those people who say you're using God as an excuse? You're the guy, you're the man, you can pursue, you can have whatever women you want.
My first thought that came to mind is, I remember when I was first coming to God and I was going through a lot. Like I have stories for days on all the spiritual things I've been through. Like people don't understand, my belief in God isn't through people telling me you should believe in this. My belief in God is I went through some things y'all can't even imagine. Things that the average person is never going to see. And I cannot deny what I saw, what I went through, what I heard with my own ears and eyes, and say this, you know, that God is not talking to me. Okay.
Yeah.
So for those who say you're just using God as an excuse, oh, well, I can't prove to nobody that this is real. I can only stand in my truth and say, listen, I get it, because there are people who use God as an excuse. But, you know, I understand that not everybody will understand. And my job is not to force anyone to understand. For some people, you know what? Some people right now will watch this video, say this is a bunch of nonsense. But the seed is being planted in them. And something will happen to them, maybe next month, next year, whatever, where all of this, they're going to remember it, and now it makes sense. So I'm just going to speak my truth. And what people want to do with that, that's totally up to them. Because like I said, when I was going through my process, I remember people thought I was crazy. They thought I was really crazy. Oh, you're not hearing from God. I remember I went on a fast and I was getting like crackhead skinny, and there was like, this can't be God telling you to do this. It's like, you know, what you want me to tell you? It is what it is.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's rare for people to hear from God, but not only hear from God, to actually obey God. And it seems like that's what you're doing. And that's why it may seem foreign, because I think we're a generation that doesn't trust God. We do take things into our own hands, and most of the time it goes to shits. However, we still want to take things into our own hands, and we still want to kind of make things work. I think a question that people would want to know, though, you are a relationship coach. I've seen your seminars, I've seen your events, I've seen your following, and you have a lot of women following you. So you know where I'm going with this, don't you? So when you go to these events and you see these women, I don't know, because I just think, as a woman, I think maybe it's not the same for men, but the way that I see it is like, men are the fishermen, right? They just throw out their whatever, and then they reel it back in. However, you obviously are a professional. You're not going to these events to, you know, smash or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's a question I need to ask you. I'm not sure. But you're going to these events. You're seeing those beautiful women, and the women that are healing or have healed. Has there ever been an instance when you're like, she bad?
I mean, yeah, of course. Like, there's going to be moments where I see extremely attractive women, or women that catch my eye, catch my attention. But as you said, when I'm in that environment, I can't be concerning myself with that, because that's a distraction, you know? So I just stay focused on the moment and doing my job. Like when I'm on tour and I'm doing these events, my focus is do my job, you know, and get it done, and be a pleasant spirit in the area for the people, and be able to talk to them. So I don't focus on that aspect of it. But of course, as a man, I've seen beautiful, very attractive women at various events. What you want to add? Look at this. Let's go ahead.
Okay, so you've seen beautiful women at these events. Has there ever been a time when you have dated someone that has come to your event, or dated someone that is your follower, that is a follower of you or reply to a DM? Do you get a lot of DMs?
Oh, okay. So there's been instances where I've maybe met up for lunch or something like that. It does happen from time to time. You know, the thing with the DM thing is that I'm not always in my DMs even responding. So it can be hit or miss if I'm even going to see it, to be honest with you. And also where I'm at that time, mentally, spiritually, may determine if I'm open to anything at that moment or whatever. But there has been moments like that, yes. You know, as far as like long-term dating, anybody that, here's the thing, sometimes I meet women and I don't know if they know who I am.
Yeah.
I've heard of some situations where, like, I remember meeting a woman, we did start to date, and she was making it seem to me that she had no clue who I was. And my homeboy, who happened to know her or have a mutual friend, he was like, that girl knows exactly who you are. She is playing. So, you know, and I don't sit there and try to like figure out if they're lying or not. It is what it is, you know? So there may have been a time where I was flat out dating a follower and I just had no idea she knew from the jump who I was. But at some point they're going to know who I am regardless.
Yeah. Would you say it's hard or difficult dating someone that knows you? And do you find that women kind of like the idea of Stephan as opposed to the reality? Because I know that with a lot of people, especially public figures, people feel like they know you. They feel like, oh, I would love a man like Stephan. I would love this. I would love that. But then, like, you're not relationship coach 24/7. Like, in your normal life, you're just Stephan, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that it's a bit difficult for people to switch off the image, separate the image from the person?
Yeah. So I don't want this to sound conceited.
No, go ahead. It's confidence. It's confidence.
They actually like the reality way better than the online.
Okay, that's smooth.
So many are surprised. I think the persona online gives off a much more conservative vibe than I actually am. All right. Not that what you see online isn't me, it's me, but there's more to me than that. Yeah. And I think that once people learn the more to me part, they're actually more intrigued.
Right.
And they like it even more. But I do think that I will say that where the difficulty may come in is that because of the perception that people hold on to from what they see online, I would argue that some women have not shot their shot or made their interest known because based on their perception, they're like, oh, he wouldn't talk to me, or, oh, this is like, it's actually not true. Right. You're just getting me wrong because of what you're seeing and you're jumping. I remember one time I went on a date and the girl said, I thought you were going to walk out the car with a Bible in your hand.
Oh my God.
So I do think that that's where it can make things difficult. And I do think that there are a level of expectation that may come from because you see me online. Mm. And again, it's not that I don't necessarily meet the expectation, but I just think, you know, people have to remember there's more to an influencer than what you see on the internet. And you got to keep an open mind about that.
Mm. Do you feel like it's hard to be, as someone that is kind of put on a pedestal as a relationship coach, do you feel like it's difficult online to be vulnerable or to be open and transparent about you, Stephan the person, as opposed to Stephan the relationship expert?
To a certain extent, I think, you know, I'm always in my videos giving little stories and giving little personal moments and stuff like that. So I try to, but I guess the reason why it's difficult for me more so is I'm very low key. So again, even being this person on the internet, that's not me. Like if people who follow me, you'll notice I rarely post personal stuff on my page, on my story.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah, and it's simply because I'm not the guy who thinks, oh, let me pull out my phone and record this. Let me take a selfie. I don't do that. I'm very just in my corner. I'm actually very introverted. So I'm just very low key. The pictures that you have seen is me trying really hard to make an effort. I'm trying to put myself out there because I know people want to see it,
Yeah.
but I'm just very naturally to myself.
Mm.
So that's where it's difficult. But sharing and yes, to a certain degree, sharing personal experiences is difficult simply because the internet has a bad habit of taking sound bites and then twisting your words
Yeah.
and creating false perceptions that don't exist. And so I have to be very careful. That's why I try to be very careful with my words in everything that I say on the internet, because I know how people can misconstrue things, even when it was not intended in that manner.
Right. What would you say is the biggest backlash you've got since you've been on the internet for 11 years?
I'll be honest, I never really got any big backlash. I was just telling some friends of mine, I was actually doing a podcast the other day, and I told them, I said, as big as I may be, I feel like I fly under the radar. You don't ever really hear.
I feel that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so I look at my, like, and this is no offense to other people in the field, but there's a lot of people who are just gimmicks.
Yeah.
All right. And because you're a gimmick, it's easier to go viral. It's easier to have these sensational moments that are huge. I'm kind of this slow, steady approach. I just slowly grow. No one's really paying me attention. I'm just growing and growing, minding my business. I don't get caught up in no nonsense. I don't speak about people. I don't speak about situations. I just focus on doing my work.
Yeah.
And I think that has served me well because I don't recall any serious backlash moment, to be honest with you.
I think you're truly a professional, and you don't make it personal. I think, like you said, people are trying to build their name. You're actually out here for the people.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely shows. However, I did see a video, and you might have seen it. It's called The Sadistic Something of...
I saw the title.
Yes.
And the thumbnail. I did not click on that video. I said, I am not even going to let my spirit be rattled by this. I don't know what she had to say. I just said, you know what? Whatever opinions they have, you're going to always have people who want to look at you the wrong way.
I was surprised to see your picture there. But when I watched the video, I think the biggest issue that they had was you playing both sides, as in, like, for the women, for the men. I'm not even going to speak on this. I can't even remember what it was. But I think they had a problem that they kind of felt like, I knew there was something about Stephan that I didn't like. No one knows people, there's a, like you said, it's a soundbite. It was a soundbite of a interview that you did with Anthony.
I something told me if there's any interview they will pull something from, it would be that interview.
Yes, it was that interview. That was it. That was the only mention that they mentioned you.
And was it because, so one thing I remember, and the reason why I assumed it would be that video is because early on in the interview, I kind of speak about how, like, women who, they're not in their careers because it's what they really want to do.
Yes, that part.
They're driven by not wanting to rely on a man or family home, things of that nature. And what a lot of women, I saw in the comment section of his interview, a lot of women misunderstood that to mean that any woman who's a career woman is not walking in her purpose. When I was saying, no, I'm simply pointing out that there's a lot of career women who are not truly happy being career women. That's not where they really want to be. Their heart is really in having relationship and family, but they've allowed these other factors to push them in that direction. And now it throws everything off for what they really are hoping for in life. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that they would use that clip. But let me also say, in regards to the whole playing both sides, what's so silly about that is there are bad women and there are bad men. There's no video where I say all women, all men. I'm pointing out the nonsense on both sides, because how can you fix the negative cycle only pointing out one side? That doesn't make sense. To me, and again, this is no disrespect to others in the field, but those who only focus on one side, how is that really helping the whole totality of relationships?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And my logic is this. Most relationships are a mess because you have two broken people trying to be together. if I can help men stay away from the damage and help women stay away from the damage, then we can have two healthy people come together. That's it. That is the whole idea of what I'm doing here. It's not to take sides. And I think that's the problem. Because I'm a man, then and I have to say this because this happens a lot too. I'll see people comment, oh, this recent comment was like, oh, I'm tired of these relationship coaches dividing the Black community. And I'm thinking, what video do I point out Black people? Like, because I'm a Black man, you automatically assume
you're talking to Black women.
Women.
Black
or you're just taking advantage of Black women. What if you were to go to my events? It's diverse. I've spoken in front of audience that were 99% non-Black. All right, huge audiences. I speak to everyone, and I make an effort to never single out any race or anything. It's for everybody. Even when I speak about spirituality, I try to leave it in a way that brings more people to the table rather than singling individuals out. But people hear something they don't like and they get triggered and they react, and then they come up with all these narratives. And that's one thing I've learned in this business is you can't let that bother you, because there's no way to control everyone.
You can't please everyone.
Exactly.
So talking about that, because obviously like I see the comments and stuff like that, not just on your videos, but that's like YouTube in general. And I guess you have got this comment that men will say you're simping, you're whatever these words are. I'm British, like I don't even know what these words are, but you're pandering to women because you want to get their money. That's the whole, like they say the same thing about Steve Harvey, the Derek Jacksons of the world. But what do you say to that when people try to lump you in? And I guess it goes back to it just being someone's opinion, and you know why you're doing this and you know who you are, so it doesn't bother you. But why do you feel like men hate when men speak to women in favor of women?
Mm-hmm. So a couple things. So one, let me say, believe it or not, I get approached by more men in the street showing me love and thanking me than actually women. Okay. And what I've learned is that men will watch in silence. All right. You don't see them commenting and things like that, but they are watching and they're taking it in. And so I think that unfortunately the internet has a way of making the minority look like the majority.
Right.
So we see these negative comments by these men and we think that the majority of men aren't willing to receive this information. That's not true. The majority of them are actually, they understand it, they respect it. They you know what I'm saying? Again, I've gotten DMs from from celebrities, from non-celebrity men, all asking me for help or just saying, thank you, man. Your work has helped me so much, things of that nature. So I think that we just have to be careful not thinking though that minority is really the majority, because they're not. Now, in regards to those men who do comment that way, I've learned to just ignore comments or delete them, because it's pointless to go back and forth with people. But to me, it's like my first book was to men. Like, how do you say I'm coming into this to pander when my first book was to men? And let me tell you a quick story. There was a time where this was after I wrote, I want to say 3 books. I was 3 books in, and I was like, okay, I had write my first book for men. The next 2 books were women. So I said, okay, I got to come back for the men again. And I was invited to this dating app headquarters. I won't say who the app is, but I was invited there. It was me and 12 other relationship experts, coaches, whatever. And they had this whole presentation and we had dinner with them or whatever. So I'm sitting, eating dinner and talking to the VP of marketing. And he's like, all right, so what do you have coming up next? And I said, it's my book for men. And he flat out laughed in my face. Like, that's a waste of time, right? And I said, I couldn't deny, I understood where he was coming from. From the perspective of selling a book, writing a book for men isn't the most lucrative thing. But I told him, I said, it's principle. You know what I'm saying? I do this for principle, and it's principle and it's God. God told me I gotta write this next, I gotta write it next. I'm not worried about whether it makes me money or not. I have to still do it. And so again, I can't expect for these men to all these men who are negative to understand that. And I think that the reason why some of them react that way is because they're hurt.
Yeah.
They're hurt. Some of them is because they're being exposed. All right. And they don't want to be exposed. That's the bottom line. So they're angry because now their girls looking at them sideways, like, I'm not going for this anymore. Because Stephan told me, you know,
literally,
you know. And then there's this some who are just bitter and hurt, and they're just reacting in the moment. I also think because there's been a couple times. This one time I remember this guy commented and said, "Oh, you're always telling people to let go and move on. You've broken up more relationships than helped them." And I didn't respond to him, but in my head, I'm thinking, good,
yeah,
good, because the majority of relationships need to end. They are a mismatch of people. I am not here to fix your relationship. I'm here to get people in the right relationship, and that might include leaving you. And guess what? You're gonna be mad at me today, but in a few years, you're gonna be so happy that relationship ended, and you're gonna be like, "Thank God she listened to Stephan. Thank God he listened to Stephan," because now you're both in a much better place. But you couldn't see it at that time, and that's why I've learned people are not always ready to receive what you have to say. Don't be bothered by that. Just speak the truth. Sometimes it's just planting a seed, and at some point later on in life, they're gonna receive it, and it's gonna be the exact thing they needed to hear when they had heard it.
I love that. So back to what you were saying, you mentioned that men don't read books, especially on relationships. Is that true? And the second point to that question is, I feel like a lot of women are frustrated because we feel like we're going to the seminars, we're going to the events, we're reading the books, we're watching the YouTube videos, but ain't no one talking to these men out here. Like, what are we supposed to do? Marry each other? Because we are leveling up, we're healing, but then the men are the same. What's the solution there? If men are not reading books, if men are not going to seminars, or wait, if the men that we want aren't going to seminars.
Yeah, that's a good. I like the fact you mentioned that, but go ahead.
The men that we want aren't reading the books, they aren't going to seminars, not watching the videos. What do we do?
Okay. What was the first part of this? Oh, if it's true that they don't read books. Yes. What I have learned is that men are much more willing to listen to an audiobook or watch a YouTube video. So men are watching the videos and they will listen to an audiobook. Because my first book for men, or my second book for men, was He Who Finds a Wife. And when I had it in paperback and ebook, it was barely selling. I don't even promote the audiobook and it outsells the other formats.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's when the light bulb went off. Like, okay, there's a different format that men are more receptive to than actual sitting down and reading. So now I have to, and that's kind of what actually contributed to me, because for a long time, I wasn't really doing YouTube like that. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to reach the men, I have to go on YouTube. The problem became, though, and you're going to know this better than anybody else, with the YouTube algorithm, if you mix up content on your channel, it can throw things off.
Yes.
All right. So if I'm doing, since the majority audience is like 90% on YouTube on my main channel, I'll have these videos for women, they'll do great. I'll drop a video for men and it will tank everything.
Yeah.
All right. And it came to a point, I was like, okay, I'm killing this, I'm hurting this channel by putting the men's content on here, and it's not even reaching the men like it should. So literally just a few weeks ago, I created a men's channel. So now I have Stephan Speaks for Men.
Oh, wow.
And so now I'm trying to build that up and move all the men's videos over there and then start to add more content to that.
That's
because
good.
To me, that's the only way I can make this work and still do, content for women, content for men. And again, some people might, oh, there he goes playing both. No, it's not playing both sides. It's the only way to effectively reach both sides. Now, in regards to, if the men that you ladies like and want are not reading these books, here's the thing. One, again, I do think more of them are reading than y'all may realize. And here's when a man does read those books or watch those videos: when he finds the woman that he falls in love with. All right. And so I know this one guy on YouTube, I won't say his name, but he came up basically teaching men how to be players. All right. How to sleep with women, all this stuff. And he does coaching. And he told me the vast majority of his male clients are not men trying to sleep around. It's men trying to get that one woman.
Mm.
All right. So again, what people are seeing and what's actually happening behind closed doors with men is not lining up. All right. So they're coming to the man who teaches you how to be a player on how to get the one woman they really want. And so what I've learned is that when men find that woman, now they become, I don't want to use the word desperate, but to a certain extent, desperate to figure out, okay, how do I make this work? And they are willing to look for that information. What women have to understand is you can be an amazing woman. He's just not the one for you. And you're not the one for him. And expecting him to figure it out is asking for too much, because that connection isn't there to really make this work. But also, and some of your followers may not like this, but I have to say this. When women say to me, what do we, why aren't you talking to the men, even though I am? There aren't people talking to these men. We can't do anything if these men aren't learning how to love us and how to treat us. And what a woman has to understand is your power and your success does not rest in what men learn. It rests in what you do and what you become and what you start to understand. Because I could get 1 million men right now to become the greatest men on the face of this earth. Every woman's not going to get one. There's still gonna be millions more of men who don't act right. If you don't learn how to navigate the ones who don't act right, you're going to get stuck in the wrong relationship or caught up in the wrong relationship. And if you don't tap into what gets you that great man that you do like, you're not going to see success. And listen, here's the thing. I was just on a podcast, and the two guys I was speaking to, they both make over 6 figures, both good guys. And they're like, yo, it's hard out here to date. They can't find serious women. Okay, think about that now.
So what's going on?
What's going on is, so they're saying they can't find serious women. And this is, these are my boys, so this is no shade to them. But in my head, I'm like, I have no problem finding serious women. All right? I can find serious women tomorrow. So if I can constantly find serious women and you can't, the issue isn't that the women do not exist. The issue is you're not tapping into something that would get you that kind of desire from women. Okay? So when women say, I can't find no man who's serious, no, the issue is, are you fully tapping into what is required to get that? Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. We love to think we're awesome, and it's not that we're not awesome and great, right? But we may not be fully living in our potential and fully embracing what a woman or man, whatever you're searching for, needs in order to embrace being in a serious relationship with you. All right.
And what would those things be, for example?
So, and again, this will, for some this will apply, for some it won't. But one thing that comes to mind is feminine energy. All right. A lot of women are beautiful, amazing women, but they exude way too much masculine energy. They don't know how to be in their feminine. And
okay, so this is from your experience.
This is from
meeting women.
This is from what I have seen. This is from my coaching. This is from talking to other men. This is from everything you can think of. Okay, it's a constant reoccurring theme. And what encompasses that feminine energy? We can break it all down, but the point is, it boils down to a lot of women not walking in their femininity. And the reason why that's a big problem is because, remember what you said, the men that we want. So plenty of women do not have a problem getting the desire of men in general, or a man here, a man there, whatever. The problem is the type of man they want. And what typically that type of man is for most women is a masculine man. Yes. A man who has his stuff together, who can hold things down, provide all these things. What that guy is looking for and going to be drawn to is a feminine woman, a woman who knows how to walk in her femininity. And what's hitting my spirit right now that I have to say is, unfortunately, a lot of women believe or have held on to this idea of, well, when I meet the right man, I can be feminine for him, or I'm feminine once I'm in a relationship. And that may be true to a certain extent. But if you're not exuding that energy,
You're
he
not
won't
gonna.
even come to you.
Right.
So you won't even get the opportunity to show him that you can be feminine. But the reality is that if you are not exuding it, even if you, because I'm a firm believer that when a man exudes masculinity, he will pull more femininity out of a woman. Naturally, women find themselves more feminine around a masculine man.
Facts.
But your ability to sustain that is not going to be there if you haven't addressed whatever is the underlying issue that's blocking you from exuding it. And the reality is what's blocking you from exuding it in most cases is a lack of healing.
Yes.
You've been hurt before. You got your walls up. You don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to be taken advantage of, which is fine, but you're going about it the wrong way. And so now what will happen is, even if you meet this masculine man and you find yourself super feminine around him, when you get to step away from it, you're going to be like, what the hell just happened? Like the fact that he has this effect on you will start to scare you.
Yes.
It will bring you a level of joy and a level of fear.
Right.
And then that fear will be magnified because of the issues that you have not healed from, that now push that fear to the surface. Like, well, maybe this is too good to be true, or nah, there's got to be, something's going to happen. I can't trust this, or not. Let me play it cool. Let me pull back. All these things that throw it all off. So all that to say, yes, feminine energy is one of those big things. I know a lot of women don't like hearing this, but I have to say this.
Okay.
Another big thing that gets in a lot of women's way is how they physically present themselves.
Okay, let's talk about that, because every interview that I hear from a guy that we respect, okay, they kind of tiptoe around that. They don't want to offend women. But can we just be completely honest? Okay. Because, I mean, when I hear that, because I know the women that I'm around, the women that I see, they always look put together and they look good. But obviously that's not all women. So can you speak to that point about physical appearance and keep it funky? Because the thing is, there are obviously people on the internet that keep it 157% too raw and real and like offensive, right? But there's a way that you can say it that isn't like shying away from it, but also being very like direct. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. All right. So let me start off by saying this. All right. I think we have to recognize that a lot of times there's a disconnect between what your other female friends or what you may view as attractive, well put together for a woman versus what a man views as that.
Okay.
And vice versa. And so one thing I've learned as a man was, like, if I go buy cologne, if I go buy clothes, I get the opinion of a woman. All right. Because my boys might be like, yo, that's fly. That looks great. But I'm not trying to look good for y'all. I'm trying to attract women. So I need to know how the woman's eyes see it. And her eyes are very different than the man's eyes. Okay. And a quick example of that is, like, this is no offense to these people that it applies to, but like I've seen some church events where women wear these big poofy dresses. There's these certain types of dresses that they wear, right? And the other women were like, oh, you look good, girl, all this stuff, right? They'll hype it all up. And in my head, I'm like, ain't no man think that's sexy. Ain't not one man I know that says he wants his woman in that dress, okay? So what women will say looks amazing doesn't always line up with what men think.
Right.
Now, with that said, we have to understand that men are extremely visual, all right? And like you mentioned with your previous guest, because society shames men when it comes to how they view attraction or what they want with attraction, men are not as vocal about it. And it's created this skewed perception of what actually looks good, or what looks good to a man in order for him to be serious and marry you. Because that's the key thing here. What many men will sleep with does not equate to what many men will marry.
Right.
Okay. And so you also have this situation, or this dynamic where, because women are having these men sleep with them, they don't understand that there's still a better level they can reach in how they present themselves physically. That would actually make now a man be much more willing to be serious or marry them.
Mm.
Okay. And so,
So are you saying that there's things that women are doing that are stopping them from getting married?
yeah, there's a book. I always forget the title, but it's essentially it breaks down like the 7 keys to increasing your chances of marriage. And it was this survey, a guy who was running surveys for something, and then he ended up doing surveys on people leaving out of after getting their marriage license. All right. And he was basically asked all these questions. He came up with these 7 common themes, which led to these women have a higher chance of getting married. And one of those things was a woman staying in shape. That was huge on the list. And again, it plays a huge role. And you know what? Since you said keep it funky, I'm going to keep it real funky right now. And again, I want every woman to know I say this with love. I don't say this to ever hurt nobody's feelings, okay? But there are men out there who they might sleep with a plus size woman, right? But their logic is they would not marry one because if she's already plus size, the idea is she's going to gain weight after you get married.
So this is not Stephan saying. This is men.
Yeah, this
what
is
men think. Okay.
Yeah. And not all men. I'm just saying there are men who have this perception.
Right.
All right. This does exist. It is just showing you one of the nuances of how men view the whole attractiveness and how you have to present yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So their view is you're going to probably gain weight after marriage anyway. So if we're starting from that high of a level of weight, the next because the thing is, men, there's a quote that says men marry hoping the woman will never change. Women marry hoping the man will change.
Yes.
All right. So even if he likes plus size women in a general sense, he likes you where you at. He doesn't want it to go further from here. You know what I'm saying? Becoming more plus size can still become damaging in that situation, even though he likes plus size.
Mm-hmm.
So because the idea is she will more than likely gain weight after kids, after marriage, there are some men who essentially want a head start. Basically, by choosing someone who has less weight on them, it's like, okay, if she gains 20 pounds, we're still good. She's still in that range where I can handle it. I'm okay. I'm going to still be attracted to her. But if we're already 50 pounds over and then we add another, and it becomes problematic for that guy. And that can be enough for a man to be like, yeah, I don't know if I can marry this woman.
Okay, so if we break it down, what is it about a woman being overweight that men don't like? Is it the look? Is it her being bigger than him? Like, what is it?
I think it's just I would have to say it's just the look. I mean, I never had men give different angles on it as far as what exactly they didn't care for about it. I would just say it's mainly about the look. I mean, listen, I think if we're honest as a society, the problem is people aren't being real. All right. They would get mad at these companies who would trot out these slim women in these advertisements, right? And they would say that, oh, these companies are creating this standard of beauty. And I've always believed they're not creating it. They're actually speaking to what the people respond to.
Yes.
If the people responded better naturally to, it's the same way how you'll have women say, oh, well, we love a chubby man. Bring us the big boys, right? And I'm like, if y'all love big boys so much, why aren't there strip clubs for women with big men as the dancers? This doesn't make sense. If what you're saying is true, it would play out in what actually works in various environments like that. But it doesn't, because what people are saying and what they actually respond to is 2 different things.
Yeah.
Not to mention, there was a study done once where they surveyed a bunch of women and they showed the women 2 men. One had a chiseled body, very in shape, and the other had a dad bod, so to speak. And they said, okay, which one would you sleep with? Which one would you marry? The women overwhelmingly chose the chiseled body to sleep with and the dad body to marry. All right. And you can make the argument that women have a slight reverse perception of physical presentation and what they would want to accept in marriage versus date. Because for a lot of women, not all women, but for a lot of women, it's about the idea of, I don't want to deal with that standard in my relationship. If he's too in shape, now I got to be in shape. And
Yeah.
I ain't trying to do all that. So by letting him slide, he better let me slide. He don't have the right to say anything to me. Okay? Which is why you'll have situations where women, because here's the thing. We can talk about women falling off or letting themselves go after marriage. Tons of men let themselves go after marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But women don't make an issue of it.
Yes.
But unfortunately, they don't make an issue of it, but it still has a negative impact on the marriage. So a lot of women will say, you see, well, we don't care. We wouldn't leave our man. Yeah, you wouldn't leave him, but you don't want to sleep with him the same. You don't talk to him the same. The desire is not there. It's still having a negative impact. So the argument can be made is that both men and women are drawn to a good physical presentation, but their willingness to deal with it or tolerate it is where it differs, especially when we get into more serious relationships or marriage.
So why do people, women especially, let themselves go when they get into a relationship or when they get married? I was in a relationship last year for 2 years, and I gained the most weight in my entire life in that relationship, because I guess I was calling it happy weight, because obviously, like, you're in a relationship, you're comfortable, you're eating, you're going out, and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's an element of, well, he's got to love me for who I am. Like, do you know what I mean? So you kind of do get comfortable, but men have a problem with you getting too comfortable. Okay, where's the line between loving someone for who they are and not tolerating certain, do you know what I mean?
Changes, yeah.
Yeah.
So first thing, in regards to why women let themselves go, the unfortunate reality for a lot of women is that the motivation while being single to get a relationship is what pushes them to be willing to put in the work and maintain themselves. And once they've achieved that, the motivation is now gone. Now, I would argue that part of the reason why it's gone is because though they got a relationship, they don't have a genuine connection with this man. All right? Because I'm a firm believer that when a woman has a real connection with a man and they're having a good relationship, she wants to look good for him. She's going to be more mindful. But the reality is that a lot of women they're taking what's good enough as a partner, but they're not really into him like that. Exactly. They're settling. And it may not look like settling on the surface because he could be a great guy. It could look like a good relationship, but he doesn't really speak to her heart. What's really going on here does not pull things out of her, does not make her want to be better for him. It just says, okay, I'm here, I'm good. F it now. Like, it's whatever. So I think that's a huge part of why women let themselves go after marriage or after getting the relationship they want. And sometimes, again, like, I'll give you one quick example and then I'll answer the other part of this. I remember a client where she gets married. After getting married, she gains 100 pounds. All right. The marriage completely falls apart. He doesn't want to sleep with her. It's a mess. They end up getting separated. In the separation, she now finds her motivation. I'm gonna show him what he's missing.
Revenge body.
Exactly. Lost 100 pounds. Okay. They start having sex again. The relationship is amazing. They're getting back together. They get back together. She gained 100 again.
No.
Yes. And of course, eventually it just ended in divorce. Like, I think at that point he felt like, okay, you're just playing with me now. I'm done here. I can't do this. So
wow,
it's that underlying motivational factor of why are you even doing this? And I think it's important that's why for a woman, even though I do believe in looking good for your partner, both for the men and the women, I do think that you need a foundational piece for yourself.
Yes.
Like, you've got to want this for you too, because if you just want it for them, what's going to happen is the minute they stop acting right, the minute they start pissing you off, you're not going to care anymore.
Yeah.
All right. But if you want it for you, then no matter what's going on, you will sustain this.
Yes.
So you've got to find your deeper motivation rather than I just want a relationship.
That's now, good.
In regards to where's the line between loving you for you and having a problem with this, here's what people have to understand. attraction and or let me say this, love is not relationship. All right. And what I mean by that is this: we can love someone deeply and not want to be in a relationship with them. Think about great friends. You have friends who you love to death, all right, of the opposite sex. Or some of you may have friends you love to death of the opposite sex, but you don't want to be with them like that. Now, why don't you want to be with them like that? Because you're not attracted to them like that.
Yes.
Once you remove attraction from the equation, you eliminate the chance of romantic relationship. Okay.
Right.
So once we understand that attraction is the ingredient that takes it from platonic to romantic, then we have to understand that once you remove the attraction, you will go backwards from romantic to platonic. All right. This is how two people end up being like roommates in the same house, because the attraction is gone. When people say, oh, the flame isn't there, no, the attraction is gone. That's the flame that went away. All right.
Wow.
And so we have to understand that, yes, when I see these men or even these women start to disconnect from their partner, it's not that they don't love you anymore. It's that they don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore, because we didn't choose to be in a relationship just to love each other. We chose to satisfy each other's needs, to have attraction. That's what we needed. And we're not allowed to get that elsewhere. You see, if I try to fulfill my attraction needs outside this relationship, I will violate the relationship, and now I'm the bad guy.
Yes,
so if you deny me of that, so if you deny me of that in the relationship, you're starving the thing that allows us to even have a romantic relationship. So this is where people have to be honest. People need to understand the difference, and then they need to be honest about what they need from their partner to remain attracted to their partner. We can't play that game of saying, well, oh, you're supposed to just love me for me. No, I do love you, but I don't want to be with you like that anymore. It's two different things. It's two different things.
Wow. That's very, very, a very, very good point, because I do feel like, and I think it's hard for women to hear that, because we do want to be loved unconditionally. Like, we want to feel, and I think there's a lot of pressure to be a woman. Yeah. Like, we deal with so much, and then to look good on top of that all the time, like, it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. So sometimes when you get into a relationship, you feel like, okay, he loves me, I can relax. But okay, also wanted to mention what you were saying. Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for them? Because there are some women that want to look good, period. Even when they're in their house, they're looking good because it's in them, right? Yeah. My auntie, she's like 74. She looks great, and she always looks good. My grandma was the same, always looks good because it's in them. She wasn't doing it for other people. However, there's other people who, they don't care. They don't care. So then if you get with a woman that doesn't care, then you are going to get that, oh, well, he has to love me for who I am. But if there's a woman that actually genuinely cares about her own appearance for herself, she's going to be like, well, no, I don't want to look like this. Not only just for you, but for me.
Exactly. So this is where, like, this is something that I learned a while ago, because I've had men, and this is where a lot of men make the mistake. Because again, some people shame men when it comes to their attraction. They'll have this idea of, okay, well, maybe, it can get better, or I can help her, make herself look better, or, take better care of herself. And I tell men, listen, no, if that's important to you, you have to find a woman that it's important to her for herself. All right. Because, like, for example, I'm someone who believes in, like, this may sound silly, but this is the honest to God truth. Even when I was broke, I knew I wanted a woman who would take care of her nails, her hair, go to the spa day, whatever. My mentality was, okay, if I want that, I have to be able to provide for that. So I need to make sure I'm making enough money that I can have a budget for her to do that and have her maintenance budget, all right? And take care of herself and all that. And some people would say, oh, well, every woman would love that. And I said, no, that's not true. There are some women who will look at that as an unnecessary chore. They will feel like it's a burden. Why do I have to do this? I don't like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Then there's some women who will love the hell out of it. And thank God for a man who will provide in this way. And then some, right? And so it's a matter of finding that person who aligns with your vision of how we live life. All right. So if you are a woman who does not want to have to deal with the expectation of keeping yourself up, then yes, find a man, because there are men out there who exist like that. And I would say to a certain extent, they do exist like that. The problem, though, is those typically are not the men that the women want.
Right.
And this is the disconnect. This is where it's like, yo, like you can have it a certain way, but there's a trade-off for everything. Like, again, using my situation as an example, I know that with being with a woman who likes to take care of herself and look good, chances are she's going to be an expensive woman.
High maintenance.
Exactly. She's going to like the finer things and stuff of that nature. I've accepted that trade-off. All right. I understand. So I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to sit here and expect her to be all frugal. No, I know that's part of her nature. Okay. So we go with that. So now on the flip side, if you want a man who does not hold you to that standard, understand what other qualities typically come with that. And typically that means a man who's not the most ambitious dude. All right. He's a more comfortable, content, complacent type of guy. He just needs what he needs and he's fine. So if you as a woman know that you want a man who's a go-getter, ambitious and all that, and I'm not saying there's no exceptions to these rules. There's always exceptions to these rules. But typically, the go-getter, ambitious guy is going to have higher standards for how you present yourself.
Right.
The complacent man will be more accepting. Can you be happy with the complacent, content man? You can go for it. If not, then you have a choice to make. You're either going to accept him or you're going to start to find your motivation to want to look good and present yourself so you can have that other type of man that you want.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I feel like it's very, like the equation is very simple. Get someone that wants what you want. I think there's so much, especially on the internet, of a lot of fighting because one person doesn't understand why is this woman demanding so much or why does this man want so much. Like you don't have to like everyone has their standards and one man's like, no, that's too much. Is another man's, is that it? Do you know what I mean? But then we're trying to fight to change people and what they want. Like you said, a woman being high, and like we start using these terms as a negative. A woman that likes to look after herself is now high maintenance, which is now like a slur. It's like something negative. But it's like, just because you can't handle, like, I'm not high maintenance. You can't maintain me. Just say that. Yeah. Don't say I'm high maintenance. Say you can't do it. And that's be done. Right. That's why they're mad.
Because what everyone's doing, what a lot of these people are doing on both sides, is they're complaining because the people they want require what they're not willing to give or what they don't have to give. All right. So essentially, these men want these women who are looking a certain way and so beautiful and all this, but you want to be mad because she wants to be provided for and for you to be financially stable or whatever the case, or take on a nice date. You know what I'm saying? Then you have women who want this, well-off, good-looking guy, but you're mad because he holds beauty at a higher standard.
Right.
And it's like, yo, you can't, again, like you said, find someone who wants what you want. But the problem is the majority of people don't want who wants them. They want the other person, and they don't want to have to step up in regard to what is required to get the other person.
Facts. And I think like that is just it. Like the people that we want, the people that want us, we don't want. But the people we want don't want us. And it's like it doesn't matter how beautiful you are. There's always gonna be that thing. Yeah. Like that's why we have crushes. And it's like, oh, if only. But it's like, well, they don't like me back. Well, you don't like that guy back either, and he likes you. So it's like a constant, and you kind of have to be humble enough to be like, okay, I'm not going to be for everybody, but for the right person that sees me and wants what I want, it's going to be a perfect match. I think this whole relationship thing is almost just about finding that match.
Yeah, that match, that connection. And I also think that people would do themselves a favor by looking at the internet a lot less.
Mm.
All right.
Too many opinions. There's too much noise.
Too much opinions, and also too many false perceptions being created. Like one of the things that I'm trying to find the right word. One of the things that I don't want to say discouraged, but I guess I wish was different, is that now I'm seeing that what used to be luxuries in life, people are expecting as the standard. All right. I was speaking to one of my homeboys, and I was like, once upon a time, going on a vacation was a special thing. All right. Like, and you was lucky to go out the country or do a vacation once a year. If that, okay? If that. Yeah. And now I'm hearing women, like, if you can't take her on multiple vacations, she don't want you. Now listen, and this is coming, listen, this is not to brag. I'm in a position where I can go on vacation all damn year if I wanted to. Yeah. So it doesn't hurt me in this life of dating and relationships. But I just see so many people missing out on what could be a great match for them because they're worried about small little things that's really not that important. You know, like I've even heard dudes, I don't want to get vulgar, but I've even heard dudes like with certain specific sexual acts. And to be fair, I think everyone has their lines that they have to draw, and what might be important to one or not important to another can vary. But without saying what it was just something that I was like, do you really have to have that to be happy? Like, you really couldn't do without that. And just for the record, I ain't talking about oral sex, because I think for a lot of people, oral sex is a must. So, I mean, right. Whole other discussion. But I'm talking about some stuff even further than that. And I'm like, you really gonna pass up on somebody for that? Is that really smart? And again, I think what happens with the internet is, I was just telling somebody the other day, the internet allows people more time to find something wrong. Okay.
Nothing's good enough anymore.
Exactly. Whereas I feel like but the funny thing is, if those same people met in person, they might actually like each other.
Yeah.
All right. Because when you meet in person, you gravitate. If there's something that you like about them, you gravitate to that. There's not enough time to analyze their whole being. Yeah. So you go straight to what you like. Online, you get to scan everything. Yeah. And because of this, you find that one little thing that's wrong. Oh, they're a Scorpio. I can't deal with them. End of story. You know, like you just find any little thing and you eliminate people. And so people aren't even giving themselves a chance to mingle and meet people that could actually turn into something special.
That brings me to my point about dating apps. It's almost what you're saying. Like, you're like swiping, no, don't like his shoes, don't like his haircut, don't like him. And it's like you say, if you was to meet in person, the energy, the chemistry, like we're looking through a 2D phone to find a sense of connection. So do you recommend dating apps? What are the dangers of dating apps? And yeah, what do you think? What's your opinion?
So I do think, as much as I don't want people on the internet too much, I'm actually pro dating app, only because it's a convenient way of meeting people. Yeah. I just think that the problem is people are going into dating apps with the wrong mindset and not putting in the correct effort. And so I can say as a man, like, I haven't done it in a long time, but once upon a time, I would try to go on some every now and then. Not for me, because I'm like, man, they see who I am. I'm not even trying to play with that. But catfish. I would do it to kind of research so I can talk to my clients about it. And of course, I'm not looking at men's profiles, so I only can evaluate the women's. And if I'm honest, 90% of the women's profiles are trash. They're absolute hot garbage, okay?
No, really?
Yes. And it's simply what the problem is. A lot of women jump on dating apps with one foot in the door, one foot out. Or it's a last ditch effort, but they're still not serious about the process. Yeah. So they don't set their profile up correctly. They don't maybe have enough pictures. They take horrible pictures, or I even have a family member. I don't want to say which one. I want to call her out. I had a family member jump on there and I looked at her profile and I was like, yo, these pictures aren't going to work. use these pictures. And she said, oh, well, my friend. I said, I don't care what your friend said.
Oh,
She's a
wow.
woman. I'm a man. I'm telling you what the men will like more. Use these pictures. And so the tagline she used, the picture she used. So, and that's the other problem. Women get the opinion of other women when they set these things up. And it's like I said earlier, if you're trying to attract men, get the opinion of men. That's how you can catch them better. That's how you can be more effective with your profile. So I think if people took a better approach, online dating could actually work for a lot more people, and understand that online dating is not guaranteeing you a happily ever after. It is giving you an easier opportunity
access
to meet people. Exactly. That's it.
Mm.
So all you're hoping for is that I have a better chance of meeting individuals, and let's see what we can make happen here.
Okay, so since we're on dating apps, give 3 things a woman can do to improve her online profile.
Okay. Number 1, smile in your profile picture. Okay.
No posing, no pouting?
No pouting, no sexy face, no none of that. All right. Smile. There is a study that shows women are found more attractive when they smile. Smiling makes you seem more approachable, even online. It gives off more of a positive feminine energy. It will more than likely work in your favor. Okay. Excuse me. And I'll have to say that don't just only do it on an online dating app. Do it on your social media profiles too. A lot of women, and let me say this, because it just hit my spirit, I gotta say it. So one thing that, because you remember you mentioned earlier about women sliding in my DMs. Yeah. One thing I hate, I absolutely despise, is when women slide in my DM with a private page.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then to make it worse, not a clear avatar as their picture of what they look like. I've had women slide in my DM, private profile, and their avatar was like some random image. Literally get mad at me because I did not want to entertain talking to them or going on a date with them. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. What? And that always showed me like how women are really, they view the whole physical presentation thing so differently. I've even had women say to me, I don't want a guy to, like, if guys approach me, I won't talk to them because that means they approach me because of how I look. And I'm like, but how else are they supposed to approach you? And this is a real thing. Like I've had several women say that. Anyways, let me digress. the dating app tips. So smiling in your profile picture, also in your social media profiles. Second thing is putting multiple pictures in your picture gallery. All right. And I'm gonna combine another tip with that.
So you're saying do put multiple pictures?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the same, think about it like this. If you went on a dating app and you saw a good looking dude, but he only had one picture on there, it would make you skeptical.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So it's the same thing with men. You could be a beautiful woman. And funny enough, the more beautiful you are, the more skeptical that man will be if it's only one picture.
Right.
All right? Because it's probably, they think it's somebody trying to set them up, catfish, whatever the case may be. So you want multiple pictures, but you also want one full body picture. And the reason why is not that we're trying to make it about your body, but one thing I've seen with a lot of dating app situations is, and this can happen on both sides, you don't show how you completely physically look. This man goes on a date with you with a certain hope or expectation, and it can happen to women as well. Those hopes and expectations are not met, and now you have a wasted date. Y'all both wasted each other's time because you didn't know what you were really getting yourself into. No matter how many people want to act like looks don't matter, it does. So show the individual exactly what they're signing up for. That way you know if they sign up for it, we're good. If they don't like it, we've already eliminated that issue from the jump. We don't have to waste each other's time.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot more to tips, but the third tip I feel like I have to mention is in your bio, present your value. So I've actually run this experiment myself as a guy. So I set up a dating profile once. I didn't put no picture up on it. I didn't want people to know it was me on there. And I said, okay, the first time I ran it, I put a bio that pretty much said what I was looking for. All right. And with that, I was actually, even though with no picture, I was still getting some hits here and there. I would reach out to some people and I would get some hit backs, right? Maybe because they liked what was the description that was on there. I don't know. Anyways, I said, okay, let me change it to me presenting my value. So essentially what you get if you talk to a guy like me. And after that, messages went up big time.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I think the mistake that people make, men and women, is that they go on there with the whole, I'm looking for this. I don't want this. If you don't have this, don't even bother, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yo, like, if I'm a product and I'm in a store, I don't sell myself by saying what kind of customer I want. I sell myself by presenting what's the value in you picking me as a product.
Right.
All right. And so it's the same thing on a dating app. What makes you great? What do I get by talking to you? And I think by presenting your value, you will see, and speaking in a more positive tone, you will see much more receptiveness, much better results.
So when we talk about presenting our value, for example, what would they say on the bio?
Like it could be like, let's just say a woman who loves nature, nice conversations. I'm here to, pour into you the same way I expect you to pour into me. Like, just saying, this is what you get with me.
Right.
This is what I hate to say the whole bring to the table. I don't use that phrase, but essentially this is what I'm providing. This is what are the highlights of the person that I am,
Right.
We don't even need to get into what I don't want, what I don't like. That's just negative talk. Don't talk negative, talk positive about who you are.
Right.
And let's see what happens.
That's great. I think that's going to be really helpful. I wanted to ask you, what do you say to people who say, how are you a relationship coach and you're not married?
I was just asked this question the other day. So a few things. One, understanding relationships is about understanding people, understanding men and women. Once you understand men and women, how we communicate, how we think, how we are wired, which is a very big one because we are not wired the same. Once you can understand that and understand how the two can coexist, you can speak on relationships. Number two, we've all been in relationships. We've just been in different variations of them. And I think that people love to think that, well, marriage is different. No. Marriage is an intensified version of what we've set up as relationships in today's world. And regardless of how you view it, the foundational pieces that make a marriage work, make a friendship work outside of sex and things of that nature, make a friendship work, make a business relationship work. It's the same thing. It's not some different formula, all right? Communication, transparency, trust, you know what I'm saying? Pouring into each other's needs. These are just the same foundational principles, knowing each other's roles in the relationship. So again, this idea that you have to be married to speak on it is a misguided perception. Now, an analogy I love to give now, it recently hit me. I had asked this guy, I said, okay, who would you trust more? The mechanic who's worked on 100 cars and fixed them, or the mechanic who and doesn't own his own car, or the mechanic who's only worked on his own car and fixed that one car?
That's a good point.
It's plain and simple. So my thing is, at this point in my career, I've essentially lived through hundreds, thousands of marriages, okay? I've seen so many different angles. And it's not to knock off anybody who is married being able to give wisdom and wise counsel, but please understand they can only speak from the perspective of their experience, which can be very limited. What if they never went through infidelity? What if they never went through communication issues? And sometimes them staying together is not a testament of a quality relationship. It's a testament of tolerating each other. All right. So please don't confuse longevity with success and the ability to give wise counsel. And if simply being married was the wisdom giver of relationships, well, then everyone married could give good advice. And that's simply not true. All right. Because it's not simply about your relationship status. It goes beyond that. But the last thing I would say is, at the end of the day, I know it's my purpose. And if anyone feels like not being married disqualifies me, you are entitled to that opinion. And you don't have to listen to any of my videos or read any of my books. And I'm not mad at you. That's fine. Go find someone that you are more comfortable with. But there's no reason to be mad at or interfere with those who do want to listen, who have found it helpful. My proof is in the pudding. You know what I'm saying? I've been long enough. I have enough body of work to back up what I've been talking about. So, take it or leave it at the end of the day.
I actually love that. I saw a meme. It said something about coaches don't play. And that's all I needed to hear, to be honest.
And you know what? And since you said that, let me add one more thing to the earlier question you asked about not being in a relationship, because I do think this adds another layer to it. When you're in my position, I always say that most relationships begin because people overlook the red flags. All right? And because I am the red flag identifier, I can't overlook them, right? I've literally seen every red flag in the book. I can't ignore it. Me ignoring red flags is being a hypocrite, all right? And so, unfortunately, that makes it harder. What other people may say, but you met this good woman and that good woman. Yes, but you don't see what I see. And it's not even just what I see, again, in the physical, it's what I also know in the spiritual. And I have to say this also. There's a lot of people today who are getting themselves into various spiritual practices, all right, that won't always align with your spiritual beliefs and practices. And you are playing with fire if you overlook that and get involved. And again, because for a lot of people, it may not be obviously on the surface, they overlook. I've had moments where I'll even say it. I've met people where I felt this dark energy. And again, on the surface, you would never think it, but I have a level of awareness that's not to brag. It's just who I am at this point in life. I have an awareness that cannot ignore certain things. A lot of people would say I'm very spiritually sensitive. All right.
You got discernment.
Yes. And then only to find out weeks later that they were involved in some wild stuff. Yeah. And so my intuition, my spirit, God was speaking. It was true. And again, I have to be very careful. I'll make one more comment on this because a wild thing happened to me the other day. I was going to say that I feel like my story is very similar to Samson.
Delilah.
I literally had a guy. This is going to sound crazy. But this is how I'm telling you. When I say I go through some wild stuff spiritually, that morning I had prayed. And I prayed about, you know what? I need to get focused. I need to get in proper alignment. I feel like I'm kind of getting distracted. So I was talking to God about what I need to do moving forward. I go to the gym. And to make a long story short, there's this dude there who everyone in the gym looks at him like he's just a nut. He's crazy. I'm walking away after doing an exercise. He starts talking to me. And I'm like, I didn't even know he was talking to me. He comes to me. He pulls me in close. He says, literally, he says, "Nice to meet you, Samson. I've heard a lot about you. God says, stop letting these women distract you. Your wife is coming. I need you to get away from this stuff." Exactly. Exactly. And I'm giving you the short version. Wow. The long version is even more mind-blowing. All right. And the reason why, and I've had people refer to me as Samson before, but the reason why I use Samson as an example is because, one thing they told Samson was like, you can't be messing with these women from these different systems, so to speak, or whatever. Yes. And it was him getting caught up in that took away his power and took him off his path. And so, when you become, especially when you become a man in my position or a man that many may consider as very desirable, there's going to be a lot of opportunities out there. Temptations. And now it's almost like the world is filled with landmines, and I have to be very careful of where I put my feet. Because if I step on the wrong thing and it blows up, it can derail a lot. And I'm not just responsible for my life. I'm responsible for the assignment that God has on me. And I have to be extra, extra careful. I ain't perfect, but I gotta be extra careful.
Just because you mentioned this, what's the attraction with men with, I want to say, strange women? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? As in, like, you know, like
Oh,
women.
what do you mean strange?
Okay, so strange women would be like Samson. God said, "Don't marry the women of the Philistines," or whatever, whatever. I find that's the same thing that's always happening within our culture. So that can be, like you said, someone with a different spiritual belief or whatever. However, some reason you are still you're drawn to them. Do you know
I'm
what I
a,
mean?
yeah, I think I know where you're going with this, and I'm gonna tell you what at least is coming to mind for me. The unfortunate, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but the reality is that a lot of these quote unquote strange women, they understand the power of femininity.
Oh, seduction.
Yes, exactly. I was gonna use the word seduction, even if it's coming from an evil source. Evil understands seduction too. Now, again, it's not to say these women are all evil, but what I'm saying to you is that they don't have any issues with that seduction, feminine piece. Whether they're using it for good or bad, they still know how to use it. All right. Where the argument could be made that a lot of women of God struggle with embracing that. All right. And there's a disconnect there. And what's also coming to me that I have to mention, and let me also say this: they're more willing to embrace feminine energy, or they understand the power of it, and they also understand the power of physical presentation. They don't have any hangups about that. And you know what I'm saying? And these women tend to, I guess, as part of their whole seduction, they like to look good. They like to, present themselves this way. So I used to say sometimes that you ever notice that a lot of what people would consider church men don't get with church women,
Oh
and
yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah.
All right. And what I realized, at least I believe one of the issues is due to the fact that a lot of women of God have become accustomed to leading themselves and walking their own path with God. So that when they join together with a man of God, they don't know how to take the passenger seat. They still find themselves, or may not realize it, they're still trying to lead, or there's still resistance there. And if he's a man of God and he's called to be a leader, that clashes with him. Whereas the woman who may not be as churchy or outside the church views his spiritual walk as like, I can learn from you. I will embrace your lead. You see? So she will go with him a lot easier. And so that's why you'll also notice on the flip side, a lot of those same women get with non-church men. Because since she is used to leading herself and she has her own perceptions and beliefs of how things should be done, who is the man more willing to listen and follow? The man who has no God in his life. The man who needs guidance. The man who's still trying to figure himself out. The man who needs to be built up. Even though I do not condone building up a man or any of that nonsense, all right? I think he needs to find his own foundation.
Wow.
But this is what draws that together. And so now you find this mismatch of believers with not necessarily non-believers, but with people who may not be on that same spiritual level or even close to it, because of that dynamic of leading and willingness to be led.
That's good. Because I remember I had to stop and ask myself, why don't I date Christian men? Like, why? Like, I'm having all these issues because I'm not dating Christian men. Like, that's the issue. And it's like, well, why are you not attracted to them? Or why? Like, there's a disconnect here. But that makes a lot of sense, and vice versa.
And not to cut you off, I'm gonna add one more thing. So notice how I said the strange women, quote unquote, understand the power of feminine energy and they use it. The unfortunate reality, and this is something that I hope to make an impact with in the years to come, is that masculinity has been removed from the church. So the church men, a lot of times, don't exude the masculine energy that women are attracted to. The other men do.
That's the point.
You know what I'm saying? So, so that's the thing. If the church man and the church woman could embrace the feminine and the masculine and walk in it, we could fix this problem.
Yes.
Okay. But this is the underlying issue. And so naturally, women will be more attracted to these, because even me, I hate to say this, but it's just the truth. I told some people recently, like, sometimes I feel very uncomfortable in church event environments, let's just say, okay? And it's because I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I fit in, all right? And I remember even one time I went to church, this is a while back, and there was this guy sitting a couple seats from me. And this is when the light bulb really started to go off. And he nice guy, but he didn't exude masculine energy. That's no insult to him. It's just the reality.
Yeah.
He starts having conversation with me, and he was like, "Man, you should come to the church more, and you should come to these groups. Man, we could really use a guy like you." And at first I was like, "What does he mean?" But then I started to realize, I think I know what he's saying. Someone who exudes more of a masculine energy, but still loves God. Like, that combination isn't as common as it should be.
And is attractive. Let's not forget that point.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And listen, I think for a lot of dudes, even the attraction piece, like, one thing I feel like people underestimate is how the small little changes can make you more attractive. All right. Like, you ever seen those videos of the man going into the barbershop pre-haircut and after haircut? It's like night and day sometimes. Okay. I'll never forget one time I went to Arizona to speak at this event, and I met up with one of my clients and we hung out. It wasn't no dating thing. We were like real friends, but she was my client. And so I had to go buy some shirts. So I went to I forgot what store we went to. I tried on a shirt. And she was like, "It's nice." And then I tried on a shirt one size smaller. And same shirt now. She said, that's it. And I was like, dang. So just changing the size and making it more fitting to my body and letting my body be seen a little bit more made it much more attractive. Like, it's just these little small things.
Unbutton the shirt a little bit. Don't be so uptight.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of these men, they don't understand, like, and some women too, just making small adjustments can make a difference. But to get back to the point, yes, I think the lacking of masculine energy is part of a big problem why a lot of women don't go for the quote unquote church guy. And that's kind of, I think, when I said to you earlier about how women like me even better in reality versus online, I honestly think that's a big part of it. You know what I'm saying? Because now they see that energy more in person. And it raises the intrigue. And I think a lot of men don't understand how to tap into that right now.
Yeah, that is a very big point about the masculinity, because part of the masculinity that's missing in the church is the ability to approach. Christian women speak about this a lot, and it's like, there's a small percentage of men in the church and so many women, but out of that small percentage, nobody is approaching, nobody's pursuing, nobody's trying to get to know. So you're sitting there and you're frustrated, like, what's going on?
Yeah, and I think it's, again, there's multiple layers to it. I think one, some people may not feel comfortable trying to shoot their shot at church.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
So that's a huge problem there. I think, again, this goes back to understanding what the opposite sex is looking for. So think about it like this. And this is, I don't want, again, I'm always careful. I don't want people to be offended. I'm just trying to be honest as possible. A lot of times the desirable men, when they hear about a church event, even if they are a man of God, they won't go because in their head won't be any desirable women there. All right. And more so, I think a lot of them are speaking from a physical standpoint first. Not that there won't be any good women, but are they attractive enough for them? So why
wouldn't attractive women go to these events?
Because unfortunately,
they don't need to.
There you go. A lot of times the attractive women are already accustomed to getting so much attention. They don't have the same motivation to go to an event like that. And it isn't to say that no attractive woman ever goes to these events, but that's the perspective a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? And so it's almost like telling women, yeah, there's a church event with a bunch of broke dudes there. You gonna come? You're probably like, nah, I'm good. Like, yeah, they might be good men of God, but they're broke. You're less likely to want to go.
Right.
And I think that's what happens. So that eliminates another opportunity for there to be an approach and people to talk to each other, which is why I'm such a believer in people taking advantage of social media in the sense of be mindful of how you set up your profile. Because in today's world, more people are going to see your profile than they're probably going to see you in person.
Yeah.
Right? Who are going to be able or willing to say something and approach you. So if you're not presenting yourself correctly online, you're already losing half the battle right there.
We've covered so many things in this video, and like I still feel like I can talk to you for like another hour, but I want to keep it as short as possible. But I'm going to read one question off of here. I've got a few here.
You can read a couple more, or whatever you want to read. It's fine. I'm cool with the time.
Okay, cool. I think it's a compliment here. Just tell him how gentle he is, even when he's being blunt AF.
Thank you. You know, actually, recently, a couple people got mad because sometimes when I'm talking about the topics, I'll laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm not laughing at the hurt or the damage or what's being done to a woman. My personality is just very lighthearted, and sometimes I don't know how to react in that moment, or I'm thinking of something
and it's making you laugh.
Like that situation, and it made me laugh, and they took it as me being insensitive. And it's like, I don't mean to be hurting nobody's feelings. Like that's never my intention.
Okay. This is not a question. This is a little tiny bit harsh. But it says, why would you interview him? He presents himself as someone who respects and uplifts women, but he promotes the men controlling women / men superior than women behavior, repackaged in a more palatable form.
So this is where, here's the thing. A lot of people don't listen to the whole message. And they take the piece that they don't like and they run with it. Now, there's a level of truth to what she's saying. Not that I package men or present men as being superior, but I do believe in men leading. I do believe in men being head of the household. But understand that it's not to control women. It's not to be a dictator. Listen, there's no woman. If you study relationships, any woman who has to lead in her relationship over the long term becomes unattracted to her partner, loses respect, is not happy. So that formula does not work in the long term for the vast majority, if not all people. Okay. And some people say, oh, well, we can lead together. Okay. If you study relationships where they try to go for the equality thing, equality never really happens. Because at some point, the burden shifts to the woman, all right? And the type of man who typically accepts the equality. There was a recent situation on Twitter. I don't know the guy's name. I ain't trying to put him on blast. But he like posted on Twitter and took a picture of, here's my beautiful wife after 12 hours of work shoveling the snow in the yard. I'm going to get her coffee ready. And he thought he was doing something. And they roasted him, right? Because it was like, yo, she just worked for 12 and you watched her shovel the snow, right? But it's that kind of mindset that you're going to find in this whole, well, we're equal, we can do it. Do you really think that woman is happy with that kind of vibe in her relationship? Again, you might tolerate it for a while. How long can you keep this up? So now we get to, okay, if those two don't work, what works? The men leading. But here's the thing. It's not the men leading out of dictatorship. It's not the men leading out of control. It's the men leading out of love. You cannot find a relationship where a man is loving and respecting his woman, but is the leader, head of the household, and this woman is miserable and unhappy with that dynamic. It doesn't exist because now it takes a burden off of her. The reality is that a lot of women, when they talk about this whole control or they fight this dynamic, is because they have been hurt or they don't trust men to lead. So to them, it's how dare anyone say a man should lead me as if I can't lead? No, of course you are capable of leading yourself. But in any dynamic of two or more people, there has to be identified roles if you want success. Same thing happens in sports, all right? When dudes don't know their role in sports, they will lose. Plain and simple. Even when you have guys on a basketball team who were all once superstars, whether in high school, college, or whatever, But if those guys don't accept that they're not that superstar maybe on that team, they will have conflict. They have to take a back seat, a passenger seat, whatever. So this idea of accepting that someone is the head, the lead, that's just the way it works for success in any multiple person dynamic. So I think some women hear this and they think just negative, negative, negative. But I've never told men to just disrespect what your woman thinks or don't consider her feelings. I tell men all the time, you have to talk to her. You got to hear her out. But yes, the men leading is going to be what is sustainable over the long term. Because again, my view or what I present is for long-term success, not what you can tolerate for a little bit. All right. And I've had women come up to me. Like I remember one time I spoke at an event and a lady was like 25 years married. And she's like, man, how can I get my husband to take more initiative? He never takes any initiative. He never makes decisions. And I said, when you married him, was he taking initiative? No, I was doing it. So you married him like this. You essentially said to him, I accept you.
I've got this.
Yeah, exactly. I got this. And now you want to turn the tables. The reality was you never at your core wanted to be in this position. But at that time, you were willing to take it because you felt safety in you having control. See, that's the reality. So I'm gonna have to say this real quick. A lot of women who argue against this don't realize you're really trying to hold on to being the one in control. It's still not equal because you're going to be the one running things. Because now what happens in a lot of relationships is, let's just go with the equal dynamic. So let's say they're equal. They both make decisions together, whatever the case may be. And of course, decisions are always made together, but nobody has the lead voice or the lead decision maker or whatever, right? Everything is cool until there's something that you both feel passionately about that isn't on the same page, all right? And because there is no structure that he is the final say-so or the leader or whatever, that woman in how she feels in that moment is going to overpower him. She is not going to let go. She's going to drive her point home, okay? And she won't stop to rein it in because, again, we're equal. So I feel this way right now. You need to do what I want us to do. That emasculates the man. And what will happen eventually is you start to hear these men just do what she wants. Just say yes. And those men think they're doing something special by just becoming a yes man or just letting her have the decision. But what happens now is she'll be cool with that until there's a moment where she's overwhelmed. Maybe the kids are stressing her out. She doesn't have the mental capacity to make a decision right now. She needs that man to step up and make one. But he became used to defaulting to you that he has no understanding of how to make a decision. Yeah. He don't even trust his own decision making anymore. He has no confidence in his vision. And so now he's going to stress you out because he's waiting for you to make another decision. And now at that point, if it didn't happen before, you lost respect. And if you lose respect, you're not attracted to him the same way. If you're not attracted to him the same way, you're not going to have sex with him or be intimate the same way. Do you see how now the dominoes start to fall and everything goes downhill? This is why I encourage the dynamic that I do, because I'm looking at what's going to be truly beneficial for both sides in the long run in a loving, healthy relationship with two people who have a connection.
Oh, damn. You know what? I think that people lump you. I feel like you've kind of moved a little bit over the last 2 or 3 years into the manosphere, because you do the podcast with the roommates podcast, and sometimes you interview. Like, I feel like you've slowly made your way. So sometimes when people see manosphere content or men with podcasts, like they kind of wrongfully kind of group you in with them. Not only that, but the concepts that some toxic men speak about is true, right? So about leading, but they operate in the wrong spirit. So that's why the person can say, oh, it's just you do it in a more palatable way. It's not that you're doing it in a more palatable way. It's that you're taking the truth without the bitterness and the hurt that comes with it, that makes those guys toxic.
Exactly. And my thing is this, I hope that person who asked that question watches this video and hears the entire explanation, because what I can say with confidence is that I can explain to you why this is necessary in the way that benefits both sides. When other people advocate for this kind of dynamic, they're doing so because he's the man, or whatever the case may be. They're not showing you how it works for both parties. So to me, if you're going to take an issue with this dynamic, explain to me how what I just said is wrong. Give me the counter argument to my breakdown and let's discuss it. But I feel pretty confident you really can't. You really can't counter what I'm saying here, other than emotionally reacting to it by saying, well, you just don't want to accept it. You know what I'm saying? But again, ask yourself why. Why wouldn't you want to? Like I always say this, like the word submission. A lot of women don't like the word submission. And I argue that I honestly think that at the core of women, they desire submission. And I would give this example. If an angel can come down from heaven right now and say, listen, God's going to give you a man who's going to love you, respect you, cherish you, never do you wrong. All you have to do is submit. Women will sign up. It's a wrap. Now there might be some women who still like, I don't know about that. And if they're hesitant, it's probably because they're still holding on to some past experiences. But the vast majority of women will be like, sign me up. So the issue really isn't submission. The issue is trusting men. All right? Because I've even experienced women who've told me that the way they speak to other men is not the way they speak to me. They don't come at me sideways, but they will have a smart mouth with all the other guys. Because there's a way to lead with love. There's a way to be masculine in a protective manner, in a loving manner, not in a, I'm controlling you, it's my way or the highway, do as I say. No, not that. And if we take it to a biblical perspective, God said, love the woman like Christ loved the church. So he was never saying, women, just let these men run you and tell you what to do. He's supposed to lead you with love. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. No one should have an issue with that.
Right. There's a lot of why is he single questions. That's why I'm just like scrolling.
Oh man.
I guess someone's asking this question, but you probably made like tons of videos on it. Can you please ask him how to move on from a man you truly love, but he doesn't love you back?
Okay. So one thing real quick I want to say to all the women who have their questions about me or their skepticisms or negative perceptions. Anyone who's read any of my books knows that one thing I always tell women is pray about what I'm saying to you. You don't have to believe me. I'm not telling you that I'm the smartest man in the world who will always get it right. I'm giving you the message I believe God wants me to give you, but I still want you to go back to God and pray about it. So if you think I'm phony, if you think I'm two-faced, whatever, ask God. And if God tells you don't listen to that man, he's a gimmick or whatever, then by all means turn me off, curse my name, do whatever you got to do. But if God tells you something different, then stop with the negative outlook. It's like, let God tell you what the deal is. That's all I ask. But now, to get to your question, you said,
can I ask a question before you answer this last one? Do you feel like, and I'm going to mention names here, even though you won't, do you feel like what happened in 2020 with Derek Jackson had a negative effect on people like you and people that do what you do? Do you feel like there's a lot of suspicion? All the women was looking with a side eye, like at all men who talk about relationships. Did you feel that?
100%. I saw it in my followers dropping. I used to grow every day. When that happened, I started to drop every day.
Wow.
All right. Again, I wasn't even involved in yet. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's one of those things where, it is what it is. You just got to keep pushing. I pray for anybody. I pray for him. I pray for those who were hurt by it, who were followers. I pray for everybody just to not be derailed by that one experience. But I understand that, the thing is this, I understand when people have skepticism of relationship coaches and things of that nature. I don't think it's healthy to be so negative and attacking individuals when you don't understand the full message or you don't even take time to listen to the full message, right?
Mm.
But I get it. It's because in every field, there are bad actors. There are bad actors in teaching, in politics, in medicine, everywhere. So everyone's not genuine. Everyone's not doing what they're supposed to be doing or walking with God. But that's why I encourage everybody to pray, and not just pray about who you're skeptical about. Pray about who you feel like you trust too, because
that's where you should be praying.
Exactly, because many people have been fooled by individuals because they bought into how they made them feel and what they thought they saw, and they got blinded by that. And so here's what I realized, there's that saying, when people don't like the message, they'll attack the messenger. All right. And so I even have friends right now, women friends, who our first interaction, they hated me because I said some stuff and told them about themselves that they didn't like. Okay. And I always say that people aren't always ready to receive the message. Now, mind you, I never talk in a disrespectful way towards people online or whatever, but I was just speaking the truth and what I saw, and they didn't like it. Only to maybe weeks later, finally take a step back and like, wait a minute, he wasn't wrong. And some of these people are the best of friends with me right now. So I get it. It's hard for some people. They're going to be skeptics. But again, going back to my point of even those you trust, pastors, teachers, political officials, whoever, pray about who you're putting your faith into. You know, the only person, listen, God said flat out, trust no man. Trust God, not people.
Period.
You know what I'm saying? So again, I don't expect them to fully trust me. It'd be nice if people just prayed before they attacked. You know what I'm saying? That's all. Before you attack somebody you don't know, pray about it. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
Thanks.
Like, I see people I don't like all the time online, but I would never take the time to attack them online because I always tell myself, you don't know them. What if what you're seeing is wrong? What if you have a misunderstanding of what's going on? So I always catch myself in those moments and take a step back. But I think people are just so reactive and they don't realize how they're feeding into this negative narrative that isn't fair to some people a lot of times.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. So the last question, can you please ask him how to move on from a man you truly love, but he don't? How to move on from a man that you love, but he doesn't love you? Okay,
so again, in me being honest, it's tough because sometimes we feel like we're truly in love, but we don't recognize that there's an unhealthy attachment going on. So I don't, without knowing more details, I can't really speak to that. So just go with the idea that she is in love and this man does not love her. I think it's just a matter of accepting if he's not there for whatever the reasons are. In some cases, it might just be right person, wrong time. Again, I don't know all the details, so I have to entertain all possibilities. It could be right person, wrong time. And that just means, listen, you got to focus on you and your growth and what you need to be doing right now. And accept that if it's not working out right now, then things are not in place for there to be success. A lot of people don't realize if you got who you wanted when you wanted, it would have completely fell apart. All right. And possibly destroyed you even more. So there's a reason why the timing is off. All right. And we have to take heed to that. I think the other thing is, let's just say it's not a matter of love, it's a matter of attachment. Ask yourself, I think it's important for a woman to always ask herself, why am I in love with this man? What is it that makes me in love with him? Because I remember one time I had a client and she was talking about this dude she was with, and he was like 6 months out of jail, which that's not really important, but it is part of the story. And she was saying how she's so in love with him, but he mistreats her, whatever. And I said, why are you in love with him? And she says, I've done so much for him. I've made him a better man, all these things. And at the end of it, I said, you told me everything you do for him. What does he do for you? And paused for like a good 5 seconds. And she was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't really do anything for me.
Wow.
So
she's in love with her investment.
Exactly. and she's in love with the image of what she hopes this can become. it's not actually him.
Mm.
And so for a lot of women, their love, their idea, their fantasy of the situation is what keeps them attached, not the reality of the situation. Because once you actually look at the reality, it's like, wait a minute, this isn't working. And this is hitting my spirit, so I feel the need to mention it. It's a little different, and I don't know why I'm going to say it, but F it, it is on my mind. I remember one time I was talking to a girl. Let it be known, I'm a very non-judgmental person, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't hold nothing over anybody's head. I don't look at anybody the wrong way for what they do. So anyways, this woman was telling me a story of how she slept with 3 friends, 3 guys who were friends, all right, in the same circle. And you know, she was giving the whole rundown or whatever. And it was like in maybe a few weeks span. So this ain't a year's thing. This is like maybe in a month span or something like that.
Right.
And when she was finished, I said, what are you doing? You know, none of those men are even satisfying you. What is your purpose of doing this? And she stopped and she said, you're right. None of the sex itself wasn't good. It was the rush of it. It was just the adrenaline behind this whole idea of, I guess, getting these 3 different guys who are
The
friends.
power.
Yes. And so I bring that up to simply say, a lot of times women are attached to something outside of the reality of the situation. All right. And I'll even add this, like one thing I plan on, because, you know, like I said, my first book is about husbands getting more intimacy from their wives. And though I didn't mention it in the book, I want to talk about it in the future. How one of the ways, this may sound a little crazy, but just follow me here. One of the ways to make sex better with the woman or with your wife is to enhance the experience of it. And what I mean by that is this. I've come to learn that women value experience sometimes, a lot of times, even more than the content of it. So a woman could go to a women's empowerment event, right? Could literally learn nothing from the event, but have the time of her life.
Right.
Because the experience was awesome.
Right.
The ambiance was right. The decorations, all these things made it so beautiful. And she loved that she's willing to overlook that the content was it. It was okay.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, as a man, and don't get me wrong, I want men to be better for their women sexually in all ways. But I think, like, if a man, as one example, if he made sure the 4 of her, talk to her, nice long talk, whatever it is that she likes, even if the actual sex is subpar, and if we're honest, for a lot of women, it's subpar anyway, okay? They're just dealing with it. She would still love coming back to bed with this man, because he's enhanced the experience and the other things that actually speak to her heart. So anyways, I kind of veered off the path, but to bring it back to the question, women have to be aware and ask themselves, what am I really drawn to here? Is it the man, or is it my perception of the man, my fantasy of the man, you know, what I hope for things to be? Because if that is the case, then once you become aware of that, detaching and getting over him becomes so much easier. You know what I'm saying? Because now you realize, oh, it ain't him. It really was never him.
It was never him. It's the idea.
Yeah, it was maybe you were so happy that you were finally going to be potentially married, and you may have felt like, I'm getting up there in age and now I don't have to worry about that anymore, or now I have somebody can bring the family functions. Like, all of that may have been, again, the experience outside of the content was what you were so happy with. You see what I'm saying? And so you got to differentiate those two and recognize it for what it is. And then the last thing I'll mention is, when we struggle to let go or get over people, it typically boils down to deeper issues that we haven't resolved even before we got in a relationship with this individual. All right. So the reason why we even found ourselves attached to this person or holding on to a fake reality, so to speak, is because we have some damage we haven't resolved. All right. So when you want to break free from them, you got to break free from all the trauma, all the hurt. You see what I'm saying? So don't be afraid to go deeper. If there's things that happen in your childhood, parents, friends, past relationships, whatever, address all of it. Because not only will that help you break free from that man, it will help you not get with another man like him.
Right.
Or another situation that is not for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'll be able to break that cycle and actually receive what is truly best for you.
So good. It's wonderful. My last question for you is, you do all this work, you do all this stuff. Do you get lonely?
Hell yeah.
So what do you do in those moments you get lonely?
Well, listen, I think something about me, and sometimes I call it a gift and a curse, but I don't want to call it a curse. I'm an extremely ambitious man. All right. I'm very much about my work. And I think I can make the argument that I'm happier doing work. Like, I don't believe in retiring. I don't know how to just relax and chill unless I'm chilling with somebody. If I'm by myself, I'm thinking about work and I'm doing
I'm the same.
You know what I'm saying? And if I'm not working, I'm in the gym. I'm always thinking about how can I be better? How can I be better? So a lot of that pursuit of greatness, so to speak, takes up my time. And it helps me in those moments. Also, it's just a matter of recognizing it is a moment. I think sometimes we get ourselves in trouble because we can't see past the moment we're in. You know what I'm saying? I think it's normal for anyone to have a lonely moment, but we should not dwell in it. And we should understand that it will pass. So if we can just learn how to manage the moment, then we get through it. And now we're on to doing what we got to do. And then the last thing is, again, just trusting God. I think, there has been times in the past where I thought, okay, this is the year. This is it. I'm going to be off the table, off the market. Right? And then it's like, nah, that ain't true. That ain't the case. And as much as I thought I was ready at that time, I can look back now and be like, I see what God did. I see what was going on. I see where it was not time. And the more that I needed to learn, because again, I think and I don't think, everyone's timing and process is different. And I do think, if I'm being honest here, I do think that my process is a lot rigorous than the average person, man or woman, because I'm in a position that the average person is not in. All right. And what is required of me is going to be very different. What that woman has to be willing to deal with or able to deal with is very different. Okay. And I think also the strength of my foundation has to be even stronger, because again, one slip up on my end, a huge collapse in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Not to mention that, listen, let's face it, whoever I get with, it's going to be highly scrutinized. All right. So I can't just get with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like I got to make sure. Everyone says we want to see proof of how you live. All right, well, I got to make sure that this proof is going to be good. All right? So what I have to be mindful of, here's nothing that's hit, things always hit my spirit that I feel like I got to mention. I think sometimes with the women who look at men like me and they say, oh, there's all these good women around. And there's tons of good women, right? But I don't think women understand how their friends and family act behind closed doors.
Or in a relationship. Or
in a relationship.
Dating, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that they're blind to what's being presented. It's almost like Instagram in real life, where they're buying into what's being presented, not understanding there is a darker picture with a lot of people that you don't get, that makes it very difficult for a man, or on the flip side, for a woman, to tolerate this individual, to be willing to have a successful, healthy relationship with them. You know what I'm saying? And again, understanding what you're signing up for. So one example, like, I'm into healthy eating. I'm very into health and taking care of yourself. And, I don't really believe in getting medicine. I believe in natural remedies and all that kind of stuff, holistic living. So if you're a woman who loves to eat whatever the hell you want to eat, you're going to find me annoying. like, you may love me otherwise, but I'm going to get on your nerves when it comes to how I eat and things of that nature. And again, you might think you can tolerate that for a little while, but can you be happy in that environment over the long term? Same thing with me. Can I be okay with that over the long term, knowing we're so disconnected with how we go about our diets and how we live life from a health perspective? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those are the small, that's one example of a small thing that you don't pick up on looking at someone's resume. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing is, people think small things like that is not a big deal. And this is the problem with so many individuals. Those small things that have a disconnect, sometimes, yes, they are things you can get through. But many times it's the small things that lead to the big problems.
Yeah.
All right. Because again, to give an example, okay, you get with me, you don't care for healthy eating, you don't even care for working out. Now you're annoyed by my obsession with working out, or you're annoyed with what I buy to eat and things of that nature, right? Your annoyance turns into an attitude. That attitude makes me start to be funny towards you because I don't like your attitude. That attitude now becomes to a disconnected entity. You see how it just going from there. So what you thought was not a big deal turns into a huge deal. And then what happens to so many people is they end up fighting about the surface issue that happened last rather than addressing the root issue that led to all this.
Which is incompatibility, right?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, you could be freaking amazing, but you're not the right fit for everybody. They're not the right fit for you. Good guy doesn't mean right guy. And good girl don't mean right girl. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we got to be mindful. But I think people, they see something that they want and they ignore
everything.
You know what I'm saying? They just get locked in like, nah, this is it. I'm going to make it work. And it's like, it doesn't work that way.
Wow. When you mentioned about we don't see our friends in the same way that they would be in a relationship, it really hit me because as much as I'm like, yeah, my friends are good women, I'm just friends with them. There could be a bloody night. I mean, I'm like, I could not be in a relationship with you, just that. I can be friends with you, but to be in a deep intimacy relationship, I would probably find it quite difficult. So I say that to say that whether you're male or female, there's so many nuances. We've all got our own personal issues and no one's perfect. So it can't be, oh, it's men. And it can't be, no, it's women. We all full of shit. Sorry. Yeah, that is just it, period. And I think it's just about finding the people that can take your shit and that you're going to be compatible with. And I think I'll drop the mic on that. But it's so good. Thank you so much for coming and blessing my little old channel.
The big channel.
A little channel. But yeah, I really, really appreciate it. And I would love to do probably like an Instagram live with you as well. Sometime in the near future. I mean, in a couple of weeks or whatever. But yeah, you can say goodbye and I'll end the recording.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Again, I hope everyone watching really listens and prays, you know what I'm saying? And prays. And just at the end of the day, again, if you want better results, look at what you can do better. And don't be ashamed about that. We all got room for improvement. You know what I'm saying? I still got room for improvement. None of us are perfect. We're all still growing, or at least we should still be growing. You know what I'm saying? And when we embrace that, we're going to see better things happen in our life.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you took away a lot of nuggets from this video. We touched on a lot of things. I know I didn't want to make this video just about, relationships, answering questions. I wanted to get to know who Stephan Speaks is. And I'm so blessed to have had him grace this channel. I'm looking and I'm working on getting him over here into the UK because I think that would be dope and amazing. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment below what your thoughts were. Can I just say, sometimes I will invite guests on that you may not necessarily agree with. It's not about agreeing, it's about understanding, okay? So you guys are free to disagree. I just wanted a male perspective on some of the questions that I've been personally struggling with myself. So if you guys made it to the end, you guys are the real MVP. I salute you. Make sure you guys check out the description box. If you don't know Stephan already, follow him him on Instagram, on YouTube, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.